Guys, welcome back to the shyu channel. It's been a while, but I'm excited to get into my top 10 albums of 2023. It's been an interesting year for music for me. I think I mostly listen to albums not from 2023. So there's definitely albums that I wish I had listened to before doing this video, but it's all good. It's all good. So, kicking it off at number 10, we have, it's going to be displayed right here, Heaven Knows, Pink Pantheress. This was such a breath of fresh air because of how bubbly and fairy tale-ish a lot of the songs are. And I think just before that, I was listening to a lot of like dark music. When I want to feel like I'm in a Tinkerbell movie, I'm feeling cute, I slap on Ophelia most of the time. But it does have another side to it. So the song called Feelings, towards the end of the album, has like a dark, haunting kind of bass that contrasts with her like really high pitched, bubbly voice. And that one I love to blast on speakers. So incredible album. A bunch of songs on there that you could just put on and just catch a vibe to, you know? Number 9 is Voir Dire. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it correctly. Voir Dire. Earl Sweatshirt and The Alchemist. Such good chemistry shown on this album, but I think what made it stand out a bit for me was how calm it was, and it's sort of like a jazz feel that I get from that album. You would expect Earl to not have hype rap anyway, but songs like Heat Check, it's almost like a jazz and soul sort of mood that it puts you in. And I could sit back, relax, and listen to him rap over it. But what also gave it a lot of oomph for me is the Vince Staples features. He's featured twice on the album. And their chemistry together is incredible. Every now and then there'll be a different song from that album that I would be obsessed with. Like at first it was Vin Scully, then Sirius Black, and then The Caliphate, Mancala, and Heat Check were like on my rotation for so long. Yeah, I think I really missed Vince Staples rapping like that. Number 8, which may be quite surprising, Utopia, Travis Scott. Now, this one's super interesting because when I first reacted to it, I think I reacted to it at a time where I just wasn't really feeling that sort of music. I wasn't craving that sort of music. But over time, hearing modern jam being played around, no, it was Hyena. I kept listening to Hyena because at the start of that Utopia reaction, I remember it being such a strong feel and like a huge presence from the beat and from Travis. It was like being a part of something huge, you know, because the whole world was waiting for Utopia. And I think Hyena matched that hype. And a lot of the other songs didn't at first, but it definitely grew. And so My Eyes, I believe I did like on first try, and now it's by far my favorite. There's not a lot of mainstream hip-hop artists that are doing that ethereal kind of putting you in space and rapping over it sort of stuff. Yeah, a lot of people might not like the auto-tune sort of stuff, especially in My Eyes, where it's almost like his voice is breaking, his voice is cracking whilst being on auto-tune. But I think that all adds to it. And then he gives us one of the best verses you've heard from Travis in the second half of My Eyes. So that is my favorite on Utopia. I think SZA really surprised me. Her feature came in super strong. That also boosted this album for me. Fiend grew on me. Like, I don't believe I liked Fiend that much at first. I think I only liked Carti's bit, but now I like the whole song. Sirens is great. A bunch of songs I could pick out. Great album. It was the wrong timing for me when I listened to it for the first time. Now, number 7. This one's really, I feel like this one's pretty special because I don't hear anyone talking about it. Now it might be also, I'm cheating on this list, so there are going to be a couple EPs. I'm pretty sure this one is an EP actually. It is Prisoner of Circumstance by Boldy James and Chan Hayes, the producer. Surprised me like hell. I wanted more Boldy James, right? I was craving more Boldy James. I saw this album, and by the cover, I actually thought that it was old. I don't know why. I didn't know it was 2023 until after I listened to it. But if you guys, because I haven't seen it on Twitter at all, if you haven't listened to Prisoner of Circumstance, please at least just check out The Love We Gave and Trust Issues. Those two songs are by far two of my favorite songs this year. Like, they would both be in my top 10, probably. Some of the finest rap. And Chan Hayes, whoever this guy is, I believe he's British. Such soulful samples that I remember. I know you guys probably know Nicholas Craven. It gave me a Nicholas Craven vibe because Nicholas Craven's goal is to produce these soulful beats without it sounding like it's been altered. And I think Chan Hayes did that really well on this album. Some of the best soulful samples used in rap that I've ever heard. So yeah, The Love We Gave and Trust Issues, please check out those two songs on Prisoner of Circumstance if you're not going to check out the full album. Because the full album is incredible too. And that also got me excited for reacting to more Boldy James. Some of his older work that I've not tapped into yet. Okay, number 6 is an album that I had really high expectations for. And I would say it didn't hit me at first. And over time, since I've done the reaction, it's been climbing up this list. And that is We Buy Diabetic Strips by Arm & Hammer. There's so many songs on here that, okay, the main thing about this album, I feel like it's the rap album of the year that took the most risk. Because I feel as though there wasn't a lot of risk taken in hip-hop in 2023. But We Buy Diabetic Strips, it sounds really fresh. Like there's new things being experimented with here. And Elucid has grown on me like crazy. I think this album, along with a couple songs like Betamax, I've listened to a few songs on Race Music, a bunch of Arm & Hammer songs that I listened to because I was really craving more Billy Woods, right? And that built up my fondness of Elucid. And that also made songs on this album really hit. Because, you know, sometimes you could be tuning into a duo for one artist and you're not going to get the full enjoyment like that. So, and there's definitely room to like the other half more. And I think I let that marinate for a bit, and now it hits a lot harder. So, of course, also my favorite artist produced a few tracks on there, which definitely boosted some of this production. Like Woke Up and Asked Siri How I'm Gonna Die, incredible track. I think I listened to that every day for at least a couple months. That track is insane. The Gods Must Be Crazy is great. Trauma Mike I love. When It Doesn't Start With a Kiss, incredible production on there, incredible rapping. It's like the rapping feels super fresh, and the production on this album feels super fresh. The Key Is Under the Mat is great. Supermoon is actually the one that kept me coming back to the album, other than the singles. But recently, Niggardly Blocked Core is what I've been listening to a lot. Love the chorus on there. Of course, Cavalier's feature on I Keep a Mirror in My Pocket was incredible. One of the best features of this year, I would say. And yeah, just a whole rap album that felt fresh, because rap was actually kind of getting stale for me in 2023. I would say, yeah, towards the end of 2023, I was actually listening to pretty much no rap, mostly 70s and 80s music. Okay, so, oh shit. I think I just showed the list for a second. We're in the top 5. So, the 5th album, you know what? I was going to say it's very surprising. I'll say it was very surprising for a lot of people in terms of the genre switch, which was pretty unexpected from this artist. But for me, it was how experimental certain elements were in this album, not necessarily the genre switch, because I feel like anyone could switch genres. But yeah, he did it insanely well, and it's a Lil Yachty with Let's Start Here. This album, we start off with Black Seminole, which is like a whole movie. It takes you along a ride. It's got amazing, if I remember her name correctly, is it Diana Gordon? Amazing female vocals. I've officially lost vision. Incredible vocals on there. I'm going to check actually, because I don't want to get that incorrect, you know? Yeah, Diana Gordon. Such a beautiful voice. The beginning of I've officially lost vision, that's pretty experimental. It gives sort of like a Frank Ocean vibe, like when he's smashing stuff in the studio. A bunch of that sort of experimental stuff going on with beat switches as well. But I think what also makes this make my top 5 is how grand it seems. Just like that feeling when I heard Hyena, the opening track of Utopia. I feel like that was throughout this album, and that's why it's so much higher than Utopia for me. It sort of carried that same grand, huge stage, big things happening feel throughout the whole album. And even when it's sort of it's mellow, it's just super nice to listen to, like Drive Me Crazy, which I love playing on that bass. It's such a nice, smooth feel with great vocals on there. Yeah, Yachty's best album today. I'm very excited to see what he does next, because I feel like he does want to constantly switch things up. Of course, the Concrete Boys album is going to be coming out. He's got a great camp going on over there with Caribou, DC2 Trill, Draft Day, and I forget who else. But I did see Draft Day live actually when I saw Yachty live, and he's incredible. So Yachty does have big things coming up with Concrete Boys, and I'm excited to see what he does with his solo projects too. Hopefully it's another fresh sound, because yeah, a lot of people were not expecting that from Yachty. Incredible work from Yachty. Okay, number 4. Now this is where I cheat a little bit, okay? It is an EP, the best EP of the year. I think it might be my favorite reaction video ever. It kind of blew me away, and that is Knockin' Area by Maruha, the best saxophone player I've heard in my life. It covers problems in UK government involving Ukraine refugees, along with other stuff. That sells it for me already. But to get that sort of like a modern slint sound, that post rock, math rock sort of sound from in 2023, that's done that well. I was speechless when I heard that. Like I said, my favorite reaction, I think. And Thunder, my favorite one on that project, which I sadly can't mention in my top 10 songs video, which I'm going to do in a short, I believe, because it was actually released in late 2022. But that's on the EP. that was released in 2023. And Thunder, it has the saxophone player has a solo that is arguably my favorite moment in 2023 music. That solo, that could serenade anyone. That saxophone player could serenade anyone on earth, mate. If you love post rock and math rock, definitely check out Maruha. Excited to see what they release next. There's only 4 tracks on that EP, but each one hits like a truck. Yeah, please give it a listen. We're in the top 3. These 3 albums. So, number 3. Someone that I was slightly familiar with. Only slightly, you know? Because of their relation with other artists that I listen to. A couple features here and there. This is someone who at first, I didn't know they were producing their own songs. I didn't know they could rap with such unique flows and flow switches. Someone that really surprised me is Mike with Burning Desire. Now, I could talk about this album forever. I wish everyone in the world could hear this album. Some of the best soul sample chops I've heard in my life. And I did know that he was I kind of had him in my brain as, oh, this guy rapping over soul samples. I didn't know he was doing it himself. And in this album, he really outdid himself with the production. But his flow switches is so nice to relax and hear him just glide over beats, hitting the perfect pockets over some beautiful soul in the back. I think I love every single song that is on this album. I will point out a couple that I really love. So Muscle Beach with El Costo and Neonte is my favorite song on the album. So I absolutely love when there's that lyrical rap mixed with the sort of gangster rap, much like Zero Tray 9 by Boldy James and Guwop. Sort of similar feel. Neonte and El Costa, super unique voices and flows, and it really blew me away. That was one of my most played songs towards the end of the year. Do You Believe is incredible. 16s, Billboards, Please Don't Cut My Wings, African Sex Freak Fantasy. I would say those are my absolute favorites, and Should Be as well. Should Be such a... if you want to feel much like the Pink Panthers album, you want to feel like you're in a Tinkerbell movie, listen to Should Be off of the Mike album. I feel like that is a really fairy tale, perfect interlude to break down the album. But yeah, Mike also released a album with Wiki last year, which I haven't heard. Wiki and the Alchemist. Looking forward to listening to that and all the other Mike albums. Oh yeah, also the thing that I did expect just soul samples and the regular sort of structure of a soul sample in hip hop, but African Sex Freak Fantasy, that automatically made me, it kicked me into gear, and I was like, okay, this guy is different. He's got something, because that was not what I was expecting at all. And I love how he sings sometimes along with the sample, like in Burning Desire at the beginning. It's like it's a really playful hip hop album. Like he's having fun in the studio, but also like a mad scientist that precisely orchestrated these instrumentals too. Incredible album. One of my favorite rap albums that I've heard in the past few years. Definitely deserves a top 3 spot. Now, we're in the top 2. I have a feeling a lot of you already know what the top 2 is. You don't know which order, though. All right. So, number 2 is an album that I was anticipating for a while because they performed some tracks on stage before, teasing the album. And for a while, it was actually my number 1 album for the year. But it has been kicked down to number 2, and it is Scaring the Hose, JPEG Mafia, and Danny Brown. So, as most of you know, or a lot of you know, JPEG Mafia is my favorite artist of all time. So his production is always going to be amazing to me. And this one was a lot different than his other albums because I feel like there was more fun. Like, he got a syringe full of fun, just injected that into this album. Like the Milkshake Khalees sample. A lot of these samples and sounds are very bubbly. And I think that suits Danny Brown really well when he's got his high-pitched voice. So maybe it was intentional because of the collab. I'll say at first, Danny Brown kind of slowed the album down for me in some parts. But yeah, I've grown to love a lot of his verses, especially Fentanyl Tester. He has the majority of that song, and it's still a song that I absolutely love. Garbage Pail Kids is so that guitar, which I believe he played himself, because he mentioned that in the little documentary. That guitar, such draining, shoegazy distortion on that. I look forward to it every time I start that track. So Garbage Pail Kids was my favorite on the album for a while, and Stepper Pig is up there. Peggy goes on and on and on and on. You think he's going to stop, and he gives you more, you know, like dissing a bunch of groups. They had the cheek to drop a DLC pack, which was also incredible. And for a while, Hermanos was my favorite song. And then it switched to Guess What Bitch, Guess What Bitch, We're Back Home. That is now my favorite on there. But Tell Me Where to Go, No, 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 No. Those 4 tracks are insane. Really added to... I'm kind of putting them together, but even without that, it would be second for me. Yeah, so it's super fun. I think other than Jack Harlow Combo Meal and Where You Get Your Coke From, which are the 2 songs I listen to the least of the album, it's almost flawless throughout. Really high energy. And then it gave us a bit of low energy on the DLC pack. Like, I believe it was the first time Danny used his sort of regular sounding voice on Scaring the Hose was in the DLC pack, right? So that kind of tells you that the main album was a bit more hype, a bit more bubbly. And in my Spotify Wrapped, I had 2 tracks from this album. I haven't shown you guys my Spotify Wrapped, I just realized that, but in my top 5 I had Scaring the Hose, because I think I actually left it on repeat by accident, because I listened to other songs on that album more than that for sure. Or maybe, yeah, Scaring the Hose and Garbage Pail Kids was on my top 5 on Spotify Wrapped. That kind of shows you how much I listened to this album. But Orange Juice Jones had its moment where I was listening to that every day. And yeah, so many fun songs, because when Peggy raps, it kind of quite a serious tone. And I would say the beats on this album contrast it quite a bit with how fun they are. So Scaring the Hose, great album. He did release a few of his older tracks on under Devon Hendrix. And he was actually going to surprise us on January 1st with the album, he said. Because he didn't want to rush it, right? So maybe we'll get that soon. And in Scaring the Hose Volume 2, I'm not sure if that's going to be a thing. I don't know. We'll see. Oh yeah, Red Veil was the only feature on Scaring the Hose, and he did a great job. Kingdom Hearts Key, such a beautiful sample. I love the distortion and kind of kind of inconsistencies within the mix throughout this album. I really like that. God Loves You stands out not only because of how grand that gospel sample is with the really, strong bass, but it's also how much high end is in there. Like, you feel the hi-hats in your bones, and Peggy's voice and Danny's voice. There's a lot of high end in that song, and I think that makes it stand out, along with Danny's lyrics, like biblical sexual lyrics, which is great. Okay, amazing album. He definitely scared the hoes, but I think they gained quite a lot of hoes from that album too. So we made it to number 1, but actually I'm going to mention a few honourable mentions before I get into my number 1. First honourable mention is one that I actually didn't add because I didn't think it was very fair to add, but Call Me If You Get Lost, the State Cell, great addition to the Call Me If You Get Lost album, which was already fantastic. In Heaven to Me and What a Day and Sorry Not Sorry. Some of my favorite rapping from Tyler ever. So yeah, love that addition to Call Me If You Get Lost. Next one is The Record by Boy Genius, which I did a reaction for. And The Record had a couple of songs that I really enjoyed. Like $20 is great. And Satanist was incredible. I guess it didn't make my list because I don't revisit it much. So yeah, Boy Genius, The Record. Next honorable mention is Ugly by Slow Tie. I had Fuck It Puppet on repeat for a while, and that, along with Never Again being such a heart-wrenching song, I think that was that was definitely the saddest song I've heard this year. It pulled on my heartstrings. I had watery eyes, and yeah, that Never Again song alone makes it worthy of being on honorable mentions. Okay, next honorable mention is Messy by Olivia Dean. Incredible pop artist from the UK. If you haven't heard of her, please check her out. Olivia Dean, very fun sounding stuff on there, along with more mellow soul sort of similar feeling that I would get from Adele or Cleo Soul, but also the fun poppy stuff too. Next is one that actually, if I listen to it more, it would probably make my top 10 list, and that is Powders by Earth Eater. Earth Eater, one of my favorite artists ever. The main reason why it didn't make the top 10 is, I guess, the bit of cringe from the Chop Suey cover. But when I listen to Sugarcane Switch, it does bring me back to the Earth Eater that I love from the Trinity album, which is an incredible album. And yeah, I think if I listen to the album more and more, it will grow on me like Trinity did. Actually, I like Trinity straight away, but maybe it will reach that level a bit more. Yeah, Earth Eater. Check her out if you're not aware. Next is Heaven by Cleo Soul. Probably my favorite UK singer. Beautiful voice. I feel like she conveys pain really well through her singing. Very nice mellow beats. If you're not familiar with Cleo Soul, please check her out. She had another album in 2023, but this is actually the only one I listened to, so they both probably would have been mentioned because she's incredibly consistent. But yeah, Heaven is the one I listened to, and it was fantastic. Next, Everything Is Alive by Slow Dive, which somehow they still have such an incredible sound after all this time. Since like early 90s, they've been so consistent. I feel like a lot of people lose that touch, but yeah, I think maybe, I don't know if this is controversial, but I much prefer female vocals over male vocals when it comes to singing, especially over that shoegaze type stuff. And I think there was a lot of the male vocals on Everything Is Alive. Maybe that's why I didn't make the top 10. And I also listened to this extremely late in the year, so it hasn't had time to grow on me. But Shanty and Kisses are incredible, along with a few other tracks on there. Super good shoegaze stuff right there. And then my last honorable mention is Raven by Kalela, and it was great. It's extremely bubbly again. I'm willing to check out more stuff from her. She also had a feature on Pink Pantheress' album, and I think that urged me to check out her album more. And yeah, there's some great tracks on there. And I think the low end bass and 808s and kicks throughout this, along with that really beautiful voice, that sort of contrast really made this album special for me, I think. Like Enough for Love and On the Run, I think if you play that in speakers and you have that really strong 808s and her just gliding on there with her silky voice, that contrast will really hit you in speakers, I think. All right, that's the honorable mentions. We made it to number 1, and that is called number 1. A lot of you probably know already, but this person has become my favorite rapper, lyricist ever. I've pretty much listened to his whole discography now. His lyrics hit harder than anyone else's. He's someone that has had a real love for his art of lyricism and hip hop in general, but has been kind of pushed to the background for years and years, but still kept that passion to keep putting out incredible work. And with that chip on your shoulder sort of thing, you're gonna still have that hunger after you've been rapping for years, because people are trying to keep you down, or people are not really taking notice to what you're doing. But I'm extremely glad that he's getting recognition nowadays, and I think he's the best lyricist ever, and that is Billy Woods with Maps, along with Kenny Siegel. Kenny Siegel surprised the hell out of me with this album, along with Hiding Places. But Maps is such a journey, because I think there is a real demand for good jazz rap, and there's quite a bit of that in here, like Blue Smoke, Bad Dreams Are Only Dreams, New York City Tap Water. I think that sort of jazz rap, a whole album of that would be incredible. But that's not even where it ends. I think I would say my favorite song on this album now is Hangman, or Babylon by Bus, or Soft Landing. But I think I'm going to go with Hangman. Hangman had such a menacing, villainous vibe. You can imagine a villain walking down a dark street alone to Hangman. There's a lot of pictures being painted in this album. Of course, a lot of it is to do with him going on tour. A lot of things changing at home, in his hometown. New York City Tap Water, when he goes back home, he's seeing gentrification happening around. He's seeing new people. He's seeing people that he was familiar with not recognizing him anymore. Just things changing, and him going on tour and traveling the world. That makes the changes hit harder, I think. But also, As the Crow Flies, an incredible verse from Elucid. And then Billy Woods has that really, I can imagine a parent listening to that and just having their heart put out their chest, just thinking about their children, you know? He really grabs your attention, but also makes you feel the emotion through the music extremely well. And of course, Kenny Siegel has a lot to do with that too. There's so many songs on here that I was obsessed with, that I'm still obsessed with, but they have their turns, you know. It usually goes like that for me. New York City Tap Water, of course. Year Zero, actually one of my favorite performances from Danny Brown. I think they put him on the perfect beat. FaceTime, Samuel T. Herring, the first time I've heard of him. Extremely good, catchy chorus. I was obsessed with that for ages. There's so much on here. Rapper Weed, Soft Landing, of course. Can't forget Soft Landing. Soft Landing was actually my favorite song of the year. But then, you know, Hangman took over and other songs took over, you know. Soundcheck, incredible song. Quell Chris is super good. I can't wait to check out his stuff. Houdini is great. Just everything about this album is so good. If yeah, that's why it's number one. If there was one album from 2023 that I can make everyone in the world listen to, that is Maps. And that thought made the decision a lot easier for me. And I think Kenny Siegel, because of this album, I think he's the best producer of the year too. And of course, Hiding Places he also produced, and that's my favorite Billy Woods album. I really, really want more Kenny Siegel and Billy Woods, okay? Because those two albums are some of the best rap albums ever. And I can't leave without talking about Babylon by Bus. Babylon by Bus, you see how I said the Maruha track Thunder had one of my favorite moments ever with the saxophone solo. My favorite rap verse of the year would be the last verse in Babylon by Bus by Billy Woods. Just incredible strings from Kenny Siegel going on in the back. The samples are amazing, and it's that huge grand entry where Billy Woods takes the stage and closes off the track with incredible lyrics that paints pictures in your head, like I lie down like V.I. Lenin. I could just imagine it. No, you hear caught 'em lacking on 9/11. I lie down like V.I. Lenin. People don't want the truth, they want me to tell them grandma went to heaven. Rifle on the wall is an icebreaker. Oh my gosh. It's something else. It's incredible. And I think at first I actually didn't enjoy the features as much from Shrapnel. They definitely grew on me. It just, some rap styles take some time to get used to. And that sort of rapping style I'm usually not fond of. But listening to this over and over, and also wanting to get to that Billy Woods verse in the end with the strings coming in, made me listen to Shrapnel a lot, and it definitely grew on me. So arguably, I actually like that more than Soft Landing. No, and Soft Landing was my favorite. But yeah, I would say Hangman is number one though. So good. Now every time I see that airplane EasyJet guide, it's going to be a Billy Woods reference from the album cover. That is my top 10. Billy Woods and Kenny Siegel taking the cake. Quite a few incredible albums this year. I do feel like I did miss out on some albums there. I do feel like I missed out on some albums. Please let me know what your favorite album is of 2023 so I can check it out if I haven't already. Yeah, let me know what you think about the list. And that is it from me. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. Peace.